With the time drive malfunctioning on the Zephyr, the team has about 20 minutes, or a couple days depending on how you look at it, to find a solution before the ship jumps itself into oblivion. So Yo-Yo and May go on a spa treatment to save the day. So just quick spoiler warning here, if you have not yet seen episode 8 of season 7 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this episode was titled After Before. So, go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But, now that you've been warned, let's jump into all the spoilers and break down everything that happened in this episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, time travel is a tricky thing, and we get to see that play out to maximum effect in two parallel stories this week. After Mac and Deke were abandoned in the 80s for almost 2 years, the team is reunited back on the Zephyr. And now we know why they got ditched for so long, because apparently the time drive is malfunctioning and the ship is cutting its jump time exponentially with each effort. So the time between jumps and the distance jumped is cutting each time, which is definitely not a good thing. And once it reaches 0, it'll try to jump within a jump, and nobody's really sure what'll happen then, but they're all sure it definitely won't be good. So efforts to cut the power to the drive fail, and it's created a force field around itself, so they can't reach in and pull out the core. And the only person fast enough to have a shot is Yo-Yo, though her powers haven't exactly been working since her run-in with the Shriek last season. Thankfully, though, we've dropped into the early mid-80s, I think it's like 1983, which means that Daisy's mother, Jiaying, has since established her inhuman commune. So if anyone could help Yo-Yo regain her powers, it's them. So Yo-Yo and May leave the ship and head there for assistance, and they have about 2 days, which translates to just about 20 minutes on the Zephyr. Gotta love time travel. But then just a quick side note here, before Yo-Yo left, when she was basically saying goodbye to everyone, I found it interesting how she said, see you in a couple minutes, and then that just automatically reminded me of Black Widow in Endgame, how right before they were gonna go into the quantum realm and time travel, Natasha said to Steve, see you in a minute, or something like that, and then she didn't see them in a minute because, she went to Vormir and jumped off a cliff. So I got a little concerned here for Yo-Yo, but luckily she didn't have to sacrifice herself and jump off a cliff like Black Widow did. Also, sorry, spoiler alert for Avengers Endgame, although, you should have seen that by now. But back to the episode. So we see the team on the Zephyr playing out their few minutes of scrambling, though Deke's attempt to cut the power remotely fails. And Simmons develops a new prosthetic for Sousa, so no more limp, good for him. Coulson gets a new robo body, and that was really funny how when they first turned him on, he was still getting his body developed, and it was almost like a 3D printer. His legs were still printing in, so that was kind of awkward. You could have at least waited until he had his legs back. But on top of that, Daisy also does some much needed healing, which is fantastic. And we'll see a lot more of her in the next episode, as the next episode is basically all about her. But he may be new to the mix, but Sousa has definitely made a great addition to this ensemble, especially, and, it's a shame we won't get another season or 2 with him on the team, but we also need to get, Fitz in here again, and we do get a nice little nod in here, since obviously he's been MIA this whole season, and when things seem most dire, Simmons records a message to him, and it's impossible to overestimate how much his presence has been missed this year. And here's hoping there are big plans for Fitz in the back half. We got a couple teases today from Elizabeth Henstridge, who of course plays Gemma Simmons on the show. And she mentioned how in this episode there was some more information about him from her character, and in the next episode there will be some more information dropped about him. But then in the last couple episodes after that, and hopefully just the episode after next episode, Fitz will actually be showing up and will be getting information from himself. So that'll be definitely interesting to actually see him back, on the show, because this is the final season. There's only 13 episodes, and we've already gone through 8 episodes without him, and it doesn't sound like we'll see him in episode 9 either. So he's definitely been missed, but hopefully we'll be seeing more of him very soon. But meanwhile, while all of that was going on, Yo-Yo and May meet up with the early Inhumans, and after running some tests, they can't find any evidence of a poison that is repressing her powers. So Jiaying determines it must be something psychological that isn't accessing her powers. And I mean, we kind of called that. I mean, it's so obvious that she didn't have something keeping her from using her powers. It was just a mental thing, like a mental block that she just couldn't bring herself to use her powers, I guess. And I've been theorizing about that for a couple episodes here. But Jiaying actually, never mind. But thankfully, May is still getting the hang of her empathetic powers. So Jiaying recommends to use them to try and help Yo-Yo work through whatever mental block might be holding her back. And they do that in a sparring session, as Yo-Yo finally connects to the memory that has grounded her powers from the start. As a child, she tried to protect a piece of jewelry and inadvertently caused her father to be shot and killed. And it's that guilt that she carried her entire life, and as we later find out, manifested itself into the core of how her powers worked. And the Yo-Yo part of bringing her back to the start when she uses her speed, it was really completely subconscious and self-imposed restriction out of a deep-rooted fear of fully embracing her abilities, which is really interesting because her powers have always been definitely unique, because she's not just a regular speedster. She always bounces back. And there's always kind of been a mystery with that, why isn't she just a normal speedster? And I like how they explain it here, with them actually explaining that it's because she's just, has that fear, and she's scared to fully embrace her abilities. But as they look to make their exit from the afterlife, the Inhuman commune is attacked by Nathaniel Malick, of course, who survived his encounter with Daisy and has successfully adapted her quake powers. And apparently he's recruiting his own team and wreaks havoc on their community. And he also actually captures most of the Inhumans there, with plans to harvest their powers much like he did with Daisy. And of course, as we saw at the end of last episode, he's also teamed up with Sybil and the remaining Chronicoms. So that's definitely not a great combination. It's like father, like son, just like how Freddie Malick teamed up with the Chronicoms before. Nathaniel Malick could be putting together his own makeshift Inhuman super team, and that certainly looks to be the antagonistic thread to drive the back half of the season. And I have to say, I hate Nathaniel Malick. I mean, first of all, the outfit he was wearing here, it was just so stupid. I mean, he looked like a cosplayer trying to dress up as Punisher, and let's just say he wasn't doing a very good job of it. And he's honestly just getting annoying at this point. I don't know what it is about him. He's just annoying, and I just don't like him. And I mean, at the same time, it's kind of I guess that's a good thing because he's the bad guy and we're not supposed to like him. But I don't know, there's just something about him I just really don't like. But during all this time spent here in the afterlife with all the Inhumans, one of the characters we get to introduce to is Cora. So she is an Inhuman, and I'm not completely sure what kind of power she has, but we see that her eyes light up and she can do all this glowy stuff, so she's dangerous but cool. And she is one of the Inhumans that Nathaniel Malick actually tries to corrupt and manipulate into joining his side. But there's just this little throwaway line in here from Jiaying, who has, like, throughout these scenes, you kind of assume that she's kind of like an adoptive mother to Cora, and that she's basically raised her and taken care of her and everything. And that, you could assume that, but Jiaying specifically calls her her daughter. So yeah, it could be, not literal daughter, just she thinks of her as a daughter, but maybe she actually is her daughter, and this could be confirmation that maybe Daisy has a sister. So that would be pretty crazy. I mean, if that is the case, I don't know if we'll actually get anything explained with that. But like I said, the next episode is primarily focusing on Daisy, and the episode is all about her. So maybe we'll find out something more about this, but I think maybe Daisy has a sister now that we never knew about. So that's pretty crazy and pretty interesting here. But once the day is saved for now, until Nathaniel Malick tries to wreck the timeline again, we are back on the ship with May and Yo-Yo, who arrive with seconds to spare, and thankfully Yo-Yo figures out her block in the nick of time, uses her speed, and seemingly dismantles the time drive before it makes that final jump into oblivion. And she also figures out she doesn't have to yo-yo back anymore, and is now a straight-up speedster, so Yo-Yo saves the day. But speaking of that, now that Yo-Yo doesn't bounce back, I mean, she's no longer Yo-Yo and kind of just now Yo, because she's just basically a normal speedster now, which is great. It's cool to see that she's an actual speedster finally. But she's gonna have to have a new name now, because you can't call her Yo-Yo anymore, because the whole point of that was because she bounced back, but she don't do that anymore. So they gotta come up with some cool name for her. I have no idea what they'll call her. Maybe just the Blur, the Streak, the Whizzer. I don't know. They gotta come up with something cool. I actually don't know if they'll actually come up with a cool name for her, but I hope they do. But yeah, basically the day is saved by Yo-Yo, or so they think. But we do get this small little scene in here between Deke and Enoch that I just want to throw in here. About Deke asking Enoch if he can play the drums and stuff. And basically we're getting some setup here for the Deke Squad 2.0. That's right. We only have 3 members so far. We got Deke, lead singer, of course. We're going to have Enoch on drums. And then, of course, Mac with the saxophone, of course, because he's a sax man. So I don't know if we'll actually see anything with that, but I hope we do, because I loved the last episode, and if we see more of the Deke Squad, whether it's the past or the present version of it, I'm all up for it. But just when it seems like the day is saved and the crisis has been averted, the ship actually jumps yet again. And we don't know what happens next, but it's probably not great. And I'm not completely sure what's going on, but based off of the promo for next episode, it is going to be a Groundhog's Day type scenario, featuring Daisy. So she's gonna wake up from her healing pod, and then she's just gonna have to keep reliving the same day, watching everybody on the team die. And something really interesting about this next episode is that it's actually being directed by Elizabeth Henstridge, who, as I mentioned earlier, plays Gemma Simmons, and she actually just announced that today, that she's gotten to direct the next episode. So that's pretty crazy. I've been following her live streams that she does every week on her YouTube channel, where she does like cast interviews and with the directors and the writers of each episode. So I'll actually leave the link to her channel in the description if you want to check it out. But it's really cool because she does these live stream watch-alongs for every episode every week, and like I said, she does these interviews and asks questions and stuff like that, and just talks about different stuff, because apparently she's been shadowing for like the past couple seasons, and just like watching and learning from the directors of different episodes. And now, sure, all of that learning and watching is paid off, and now she's actually directing the next episode. So that's really cool. That's great for her. So I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to see this episode. And I love Daisy. She's one of my favorite characters. So that's another reason I'm excited for it, because it's all about her. So yeah, I'm super excited for the next episode and the remainder of the season. We only have 5 episodes left of the season, of the series, which is pretty crazy. Still no Fitz, but hopefully we'll get some of him soon. But yeah, what did you guys think about this? Let me know all your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit that subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.